Hi, everybody. It's Dan Cerrucci. It's Tuesday night. It's 8 o'clock, or maybe just a tad after 8. But here we are. I'm live with Christine Flowers as promised. And we've got a lot to talk about. And in fact, um, Christine and I, it's very rare for us to see each other this frequently. But we were chatting last night and we were talking about how quickly things happen in the world. And just since last night, okay, uh, a lot has happened
A lot.
that we have to talk about, including things that we didn't expect that we would be talking about today. But Christina, it reminds me of that old phrase that's supposedly attributed to the late British Prime Minister Anthony Eden, who said, "Events, dear boy, events. Events will determine everything."
That's right. We have no control. Before we get into the stuff, I do want to make mention of two women who, although I didn't know them personally, played a huge role in my development. Both of whom are, in one case, Italian. The great Sophia Loren celebrated her 91st birthday.
Oh my God,
Um,
fabulous.
Yesterday, I think it was, and I saw a picture of her on Instagram with her kids who are in their 50s, and she looks stunning still. No Botox, no tweaking. It's the bone structure. That's what it's got to be.
It's
And
amazing. She's got those genes.
I mean, yeah, and she used to say that she is the way she is because she was raised on pasta because she's a Neapolitan. She's from Pozzuoli, and um, and then on the other hand, sadly, today Claudia Cardinale passed away at the age of 87. And I know that you're an old movie fan,
Yes.
but anyone out there, the first image I think that comes to mind when you think of Claudia Cardinale, at least for women, maybe not for men, is the dance that she did with the great Burt Lancaster in The Leopard, Il Gatto Pardo, and she is this in this huge white lace ball gown, and her hair is pulled up like this, and you just look at her, and it's hard to imagine anyone quite as beautiful as a young 1961, I think the movie was filmed, Claudia Cardinale. So we lost one of our great Italian icons, but the other one, who I would argue is even greater, is still going strong at 91. God bless her.
Amazing, amazing. And they both come from an era when Italian cinema was at its zenith. After the war, uh, Italian cinema was part of what they called the new wave,
Hmm.
wave of more of grittier, more realistic movies that were the work of marvelous Italian directors like Vittorio De Sica and
Hmm.
people like that. Um,
And the
and
French were big on that too. La
yes,
Nouvelle Vague with
yes,
Truffaut and
my
Godard.
favorite is Truffaut. My favorite is Truffaut.
Me too. Me too. I absolutely adore him. If
He
you guys haven't watched The Last Metro, watch The Last Metro with the
I've
great
seen,
Catherine Deneuve and
yeah,
Gérard Depardieu. Right.
Catherine Deneuve. I believe she's still alive.
Oh, she's still kicking. I mean,
Yeah,
she's actually only in her maybe late 70s, I think. I don't think she's quite 80 yet.
one of
Um,
the true beauties of all time,
right.
Catherine Deneuve.
So
Uh,
was her sister, Françoise d'Orléac, which nobody knows who she is because she died tragically in a car accident at the age of 26. And she was the girlfriend of François Truffaut. And she had just been in a film called The Soft Skin that he had done. And then she was on her way to some film festival and was tragic. She was burned alive. And if you Google her, her films are amazing, and she did one film with her sister. And if you look at them side by side, they could be twins. Catherine Deneuve. I think Françoise she remained a brunette, whereas Catherine, who was a brunette, became a blonde about 5 minutes after she was born. Yeah.
Yes, well, those things happen from time to time.
Yeah.
Um, and it was, I saw all the movies of Truffaut, and I don't know whether you know this, but Truffaut and Hitchcock were tremendous fans of one another.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
uh, uh,
Yes.
Truffaut particularly idolized the master Hitchcock.
Absolutely. He wrote a book about it.
Yes,
And
yes.
it is
And there was a book called maybe that's the book Truffaut wrote that was like Truffaut and Hitchcock.
Truffaut on Hitchcock. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was. It's an
and
amazing.
interestingly enough, Hitchcock never won an Oscar. Okay,
I
and
did not know that he didn't win
many
an
people now
Oscar.
consider Vertigo to be like in the top 5 movies of all time. Often it's at number one. Vertigo. Okay.
It was, and poor Kim Novak. She was pegged as this sex symbol. She's brilliant in that movie, and also in the movie Picnic with oh God, the
William
great actor.
Holden. William
Thank you,
Holden.
William Holden.
And
She was
also had an
amazing.
unbelievable dance, a marvelous sensual dance in it. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And you absolutely said the right thing. Sensual.
Sensual.
Now, you take the clothes off and it's this and it's that, and it's back then they knew how to really tantalize you, and you didn't see anything. It was all in the imagination.
That's right. That's right. And I think it was so much more exciting. And I call those, well, this is with Judith Christ, the late critic Judith Christ, called movies like that movies. Okay.
Yes.
She had a
Yep.
phrase, and she would say, this is a movie, because when you see this movie, you say to yourself, oh my God, this is what the movies are all about. Only the movies can do this. And
Plus
there's,
the experience of it, going into a movie theater. I
yeah,
mean, well, I don't want to say COVID, because streaming destroyed a lot of the movie theater traffic.
the
But
mystique of it.
yeah, but I go to the Bryn Mawr, the Bryn Mawr Film Institute
Yes,
on Lancaster Avenue. When the Prince Theater was open, I don't know what they're doing. They're doing renovations or whatever. I used to go to movies there.
right.
I like to go to and I go to the Ritz. I still go to the Ritz.
Yes, yes,
I,
yes,
I, I would much rather see a movie in a movie theater. And
yes.
they just reopened about a month ago the old Lansdowne Theater on Lansdowne Avenue in Delaware County, and they refurbished the whole thing.
That's
That
what
had
I
been
heard. Yes,
that had been shuttered since 1987. There was a fire, and they couldn't get money to restore it. 40 years later, they reopened it, and
yeah. They say
apparently
it's
it's
beautiful
going
inside.
gangbusters.
Beautiful inside.
Hmm.
Um, well, we could talk all night about the movies, of course, but we have a lot of things to talk about,
Sorry, I derailed you. Sorry.
and I no problem, because that's the nature of this discussion. I know you want to talk about the events in Italy today. Our dear Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who I know we both admire,
Love her.
has got quite a situation on her hands.
Yeah. The obviously what and I'm going to say, she said that it was not the time to recognize a Palestinian state. She did not say that she was not going to recognize a Palestinian state. She said that it was not the time to do this when there was no peace, when there were hostages that were still being held in bondage by Hamas, while there were still attacks on Jews internationally. She basically said, and I agree with her 1000%, that recognizing a Palestinian state is essentially rewarding terrorists for being terrorists. And I so admire that position, Danny,
Mm-hmm.
because it is. as I said, we're not being censored, so I can say this. I said she's a woman, but she has more balls than all of the international world leaders out there, the men, the
Oh, absolutely,
Macrons, and the
absolutely.
Starmers, and the I don't know who the Prime Minister of Australia is, and the Prime Minister who cares? Who knows who the Prime Minister of Portugal is? Speaks a weird language anyway, which I'm trying to learn, by the way, Portuguese. I was just so proud to be Italian, to be an Italian woman today, when I heard her basically say, we're not going to do this. And she has criticized the strikes and the violence
Riots,
in
terrible riots. I understand there's been terrible riots in Milan.
Milan. And I'm very worried because I have friends who live in Milan. And I am very worried, Dan, that given who they are and given who they're supporting, the target is going to be either Santa Maria delle Grazie, which is the church where the Last Supper is held,
Mm,
is seen,
I've been.
or in the Duomo. I think that there are going to be attacks against Christian sites because these individuals, they say that they're politically in favor of Palestine. What they are is truly in league with terrorist organizations. And I'm very afraid for my Christian friends over there. And I do believe that this is an assault on Western Christian, Judeo Christian civilization.
It's a very it's reflective of the very, very difficult time we're living through. And I saw a bit of a clip from Milan, and it was just, it frightened me. Now it's a big city, and who knows where this was, okay? But we know that that part of Italy, that region, Bologna, Milan, and that northern region is much, much more left
Yeah.
than other parts of Italy. It's probably the leftmost part of Italy. Has always been a hotbed of socialism, leftist thought, even communism. Okay,
The Red Brigade
Italy,
gestated in Bologna and Torino.
yeah,
The Red Brigade, the
yeah,
leftist terrorists
yeah.
that terrorized Italy for 20 years, from the
Oh,
the 1960s through the late 70s. What they did to Aldo Moro, they kidnapped and murdered the prime minister of Italy. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. These are leftists. These are people who are also Jew haters. Because let's be clear, if you support Palestine now, I call it Hamasistine. If you support Palestine now, when Hamas has gotten away with what they've gotten away with without releasing the hostages, with manipulating data, and because most of the mainstream press are getting their information about casualties in Gaza from the health ministry and from from Hamas, from basically they're putting this information out. So I don't believe half of what I'm hearing, and there is no genocide, but the people who are marching are low information individuals who swallow this propaganda, this rhetoric, and they're already predisposed to hating Jews, hating Christians, hating the West, and as you rightly put it, hating democracy, because they are anarchists, socialists, and communists. They're not right wing. These are left wing anarchists. And unfortunately, I'm related to one person, not in my immediate family, but an extended family member, who is constantly posting about his support for riots, for strikes, for attacks on civilization, for the election of Zoran Mamdani, who has not criticized, who has
my
not
God, it's
condemned
so frightening.
Hamas.
So
It's
frightening. You
coming
and I
here.
talked
It's
about
coming
that.
here.
We talked about that last night. That we both love New York. We love going into New York,
Yeah.
and we don't know what we're going to do if Mandami is elected. What that foretells for New York. It's looks like it's going to be an absolute nightmare. The city has deteriorated somewhat since the days of Mayor Bloomberg, Mayor Giuliani. And may I go back all the way back to Mayor Koch? I think they were three really, really superb mayors for New
Because
York.
they loved the city. They
Yes,
loved the city. And
yes,
they were from different parties. Democrat Bloomberg and Giuliani were Republicans, and Bloomberg was actually more of like a libertarian kind of centrist. But
yeah. He
they,
we originally came in as a Republican now, and then yeah,
oh
and then
yeah,
he ran as a Republican, he ran as an independent, he ran as a Democrat, and
he's
they kept reelecting him because he got the job done.
right, right. I mean, yeah, he was a very liberal socially. So was Rudy at the beginning, but they didn't care. They didn't
Yes,
transpose their personal views on their civic responsibilities, on their idea of what was best for New York. And Koch was exactly the same way. And Mayor Lynn was it Mayor Lindsay? No, am I thinking of Chicago?
Lindsay was very liberal.
Yeah, but I mean, the city survived and
Yeah.
flourished. There
Yeah,
was
no, I don't
never
think Lindsay was destructive. I don't think he was destructive. I
right.
think Lindsay loved the city. He loved the city. He
Yeah,
was a liberal at that time. Now he might be considered a moderate. Okay.
yes.
He
You know
said
who my favorite mayor of I know you know who my favorite mayor of New York is. You got to know who my favorite.
Guardia,
Yes, the little
of
flower,
course.
Fiorello, of
Well,
course.
they wrote a great Broadway musical about him, Fiorillo.
I know. Oh my God, that's an
Yes,
old one,
I've
but it's
seen
so
the
good.
show twice. I saw the show twice. I saw it with its original star, Tom Bosley. If you remember Tom Bosley.
Tom Bosley from
Yeah,
Happy Days. Yeah, he played
yes,
Pop on Happy Days.
yes. And
Yeah.
I saw it in a revival only a few years ago at City Center. I commend to you the revivals that they present at City Center. The series is called Encores.
Oh, good.
They
Oh, I didn't know that.
revive old musicals, quote unquote, old
Yeah,
classic musicals, and sometimes not very well known, sort of obscure musicals.
yeah.
And the shows are amazing, and the venue is marvelous.
You know what I would love to see because I've never seen it. The musical Promises Promises, because I found out that it was based on The Apartment, the movie The
Yes,
Apartment,
right.
and I would love to see that. I know Jerry Orbach was
I
the
saw the original with Jerry Orbach.
you saw the original.
The
I am
original,
so
yeah,
jealous. I can't
I did.
believe it.
Yeah, Jerry Orbach. Yeah, it was marvelous.
Oh
It,
my God.
of course, it
Oh,
had
you
the
saw
music.
him sing Promises, Promises. That's
It had the
amazing.
music of Burt Bacharach. The music
Yeah.
was by Burt Bacharach, and so it wasn't like classic traditional Broadway music. It was Burt Bacharach's unique sound. His music had a unique sound, and it seemed to be uniquely fit to
Yeah.
that time, to that 1970s, early 80s period.
Well,
Burt,
I heard a YouTube version of Jerry Orbach singing Promises, Promises, and also from the Fantastics, Try to Remember.
oh yes, yes,
He had a gorgeous voice. People
yeah.
who watched him in Law and Order had no idea that
No,
this was a huge Broadway star.
well, of course, he starred in the original 42nd Street, which I saw.
I
The
did not know
original
that.
42nd Street was one of the most spectacular musicals ever produced on Broadway. It
Who
was
did that?
amazing.
Who was the composer? I mean,
Well, the
was it
composer, well, it was
Sondheim or
taken from the
Gershwin?
old movie, the old Warner Brothers movie, 42nd Street. The
The Three
songs were
Killer.
by a vintage composer. That's a good trivia question. I don't remember the name. He's a vintage composer from Hollywood, from Warner Brothers,
Oh,
because the
wow.
musical was based on the old Warner Brothers movie. I guess it was with Ruby Keeler.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm going to do that Encore thing. I'm going to actually, when we get off here, I'm going to start Googling because
Look at
frankly, there's nothing out now that I really want to see. I love all of the old shows and they don't revive them often enough here. So I guess you have to go up to
now.
Broadway for that.
No, when they do it at City Center, some of the ones that they revive at City Center, they turn out to be such a hit that they go on to Broadway and they have a run on Broadway. Well, City Center is part of Broadway, but it's in the 50s. It's like around 50, maybe 51st, 52nd up that way. So it's not technically in the Broadway zone, so to
Hmm.
speak, but
Hmm.
they do Broadway shows. I'll send you the information about it.
Yeah, please do. Oh my goodness, that's absolutely. Maybe you and so, sorry, audience. Maybe you and Carol and I can go up there. And,
We would love to do that. Now we got to talk about Jimmy Kimmel. He's returning to the air
must we?
tonight, and I just want to read something, Christine, that I wrote today about Jimmy.
Good.
Okay,
Hmm.
we we hear that a guy named Jimmy is back on the air tonight. Jimmy's got another pathetic Jimmy is just another pathetic voice in an echo chamber of lost egos. Jimmy thinks he's big, important, somebody, but Jimmy's a legend only in his own mind, and even there, only barely. That's because someone else is taking up most of the space in his head. Someone named Donald, who lives there rent free and chuckles delightedly as Jimmy obsesses over him. Jimmy can't get away from Donald. He can't escape him, can't stop thinking about him, can't stop talking about him. Donald is at once Jimmy's perceived enemy and his constant companion. Now, Jimmy can't break free from the monster he himself created. Jimmy suffers from TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Jimmy can't help himself. He told more than 1,000 jokes at Donald's expense. And despite admonishment and a pat on the wrist suspension, he's likely to tell more, to fall back in the same dreary, destructive pattern. More than 200 people directly depend on Jimmy for their weekly paycheck, and a whole media conglomerate has millions invested in him. But Jimmy can't fully appreciate this because he can't get beyond himself. He can't get over himself. Like a little child, Jimmy seems to cry as quickly as he laughs. Maybe that's because he's been babied and pampered like a child. He misbehaves. Then he's warned. He's threatened, but there's no real consequences for his reckless misdeeds. So the pattern is repeated over and over again. It's familiar, it's irritating, it's unfunny, it's tedious, and ultimately monotonous. That's why people are shunning Jimmy, why they're ignoring him, why they're turning him off. Oh, yeah, he's been given another chance, technically, but already a quarter of his audience, his family, so to speak, have walked away. They don't want to watch it. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to be part of Jimmy's world anymore. Can you blame them?
Home run. I'll have to post that on my page.
I had to
That was
write it.
brilliant.
I had to write it, Christine.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. No, 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 no. I mean, everything that you said is so true. And I mean, Jimmy has, first of all, I never watched him to begin with because of what you said. He was one note, and that note was hate Trump, hate Trump, hate Trump. Even people who actually do hate Trump want a little bit of variety in their entertainment. And I think that this gentleman, and I use that term, loosely, was so unable to break out of that mold that he thought that he was sort of like the crusader for that half of the country that can't stand Trump. He and Colbert is similar. Colbert was the what was slightly different, but he morphed into exactly that same kind of hater.
Colbert was
And
a little bit more sophisticated, a little
he
bit
was,
elite.
he was.
New York, New York.
I think he devolved. No, I think when he was on the when he was on Jon Stewart, and then he broke off into his own show on Comedy Central, and he was pretending to be a conservative. He was smart and clever, but he just I find nothing clever any longer about Colbert. I find nothing clever about any of these people who basically live to just hate on half of the population. I don't care if they don't like Donald Trump. Every single president has been open to and should be criticized and mocked. If you don't like them, you're in the business. But Jimmy has gone after Trump voters, and even people who may have voted for Trump and criticize him on some things and support him on other things. There is a hatred and a hostility from Jimmy Kimmel. And quite frankly, Dan, I think he has ruined his brand. Far from becoming this symbol of free speech and, the First Amendment, Salem Broadcasting has dropped him permanently. Nexstar has dropped him permanently. So he's losing a lot of affiliates. And I think that what he's got now is a much more devoted audience, but a much smaller audience. And he is going to end up being what essentially is, a niche boutique kind of person out there, like some of the people on some of these podcasts, where I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of podcasts. And a lot of these people who have gone into independent podcasting, yeah, there's an audience for it, but you never hear from them again in a lot of the mainstream media. So to
Yeah,
me,
I don't call these. I call these video casts. I don't call these podcasts. Okay,
oh
for
no. This is something where
now I do not call a podcast for that
no,
specific reason. Okay,
exactly,
they have,
exactly.
yeah,
No. And I mean, this is different. I'm talking about the people who everyone has a podcast and they
yeah.
all have an angle. And no, this is a discussion. This is something.
Chats, video casts, whatever.
Well, because you have other people on. The podcasters, to me, I mean, there are some. Joe Rogan is different, but a lot of this is just people getting out there and saying their own thing. And Jimmy is essentially, that's what the Late Show became, the Tonight Show became. He bastardized it. He destroyed. You know what's interesting? He replaced Bill Maher. And I didn't used to like Bill Maher because I thought Bill Maher was one note as well. Bill Maher has really evolved into a combination of Jack Parr, George Carlin, Lenny Bruce, Tom Snyder. He is willing to have a forum for whoever is willing to come on his show. And he noted the other night, he said, I've put out feelers to Kamala Harris. I put out feelers to Joe Biden. I put out feelers to all of the liberal, politicians out there. And the only ones that seem to come on and agree are the conservatives.
Yeah,
He had Tom Homan on. I think we talked about this. He had Tom Homan on the other night. And, Homan is despised by a lot of liberals and progressives.
and now
He
they're
came
trying to
on.
say he took a bribe. They're trying to say Hellman took a bribe.
Yeah, it's what they did with Trump. I mean, it is lawfare. It is lawfare. There's no there,
Terrible.
and it what I get now. They're like, oh well, Trump's ordering Pam Bondi to go against his enemies. I'm like, guys, do you remember the Justice Department? Do you remember the White House under Biden? Do you remember what they did? And then the state prosecutors?
The only difference is Trump is open and above board about it.
That's
Okay,
right.
he's straight out there. He's telling you. By the way, he told you what he was going to do, and now he's doing it. Okay,
Well,
it's all been
yes,
running out there. It's
and
all
I
been
disagree with it. I'm not in favor of using the Justice Department to go after enemies. I'm against that. I was against that when Biden did it. And I don't like it if that's what Trump is doing. But you're right, he's open about it. At least he's out there saying, I'm going to do it. And, people need to push back against it, but at least they know what they got.
very open. He told everybody if he got in office, he was going to go after these people. He said they're bad people, and we've got to go after them. All right. So he was very open about it. But Jimmy Kimmel, you mentioned Next Star and
Yes.
Salem. That is, like I said, 1/4 of his audience is gone.
Yeah.
And think about how few people Jimmy Kimmel actually reaches. And today, I saw this posted. Charlie show's first episode featuring Megyn Kelly and Erica Kirk surpassed 1 billion with a B views. Okay. It's going to break all records, they say. Now
Well,
put
Erica Kirk is
alongside
amazing.
Jimmy Kimmel. Put that alongside Jimmy Kimmel.
That's
Now,
right.
you wrote an article, Christine, about what's been happening since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And you said, this is different. This is different. Those were your words. Something big is happening here. Do you still feel that way?
Absolutely. I'm going to be speaking at a Charlie Kirk vigil tomorrow, and I'm going to give you a preview of just my comments very briefly. When Alexei Navalny became an outspoken critic of Vladimir Putin, Putin decided that he was going to silence Navalny. And he ended up silencing Navalny by imprisoning him and then ultimately poisoning him and killing him. And he thought, and that's what tyrants do, they think that when you silence your enemy, the message dies with them. And it is exactly the opposite. When you try and silence the messenger, the message becomes much more powerful. The message is out there on steroids. So those who tried to silence Charlie Kirk, and I'm not just talking about his assassin, I'm talking about people who mocked him after he was assassinated. I'm talking about people who said, it's bad, it's sad that he's dead, but, always the but there, but he was a racist and he was this. I'm talking about people who misrepresented his words and his message, which was simply a family first, faith first message. Those people ended up creating Erica Kirk, who is the vessel through which this message will now flow to many, many, many millions more people. Because believe it or not, there are a lot of people who didn't know who Charlie Kirk was. A lot of people didn't know who
Oh,
Charlie
yeah,
Kirk was. He had a
absolutely.
following. He had a following. He didn't have a following like Joe Rogan, but he had a following. Now, you ask anyone in this country who Charlie Kirk was, they know who he was, and 9 times out of 10, they will have a favorable opinion of him. Again, Martin Luther King Jr., you try and kill the messenger, the message becomes more powerful. And that's what I meant when I said this is different. This is different. This has triggered
Well,
a movement among the young
one of the
people.
speakers, oh, yes, is very powerful among young people. One of the speakers at the memorial service quoted Kierkegaard, and this is the quote from Kierkegaard. It's particularly applicable to what we've been discussing. The tyrant dies and his rule is over. The martyr dies and his rule begins.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's what totalitarians never learn. You cannot silence a message of faith, freedom, democracy, human rights, human dignity, and people are killed. People are jailed. I deal with that all the time in my practice. People are persecuted, but the message survives. Jesus was persecuted. And who are we talking about 2,000 years later? These are not, you know, it's a really simple principle to understand. The more you try and silence someone, the louder their voice becomes, even from beyond the grave or from the prison cell. And so that's what they did. Tragically, because it shouldn't have been this way. Charlie was 31 and he had two beautiful children and a wife, and now he has a widow and orphans, and they deserved to have their father with them for 30 more years, 40 more years, 50 more years. But
And that President Trump said, you know, again, I think he was speaking candidly, frankly, from the heart. He said he admired Erica, that she said that she forgave him. But he said, President Trump said, I can't do that. I can't do that. He said, maybe, I don't know, maybe I can be convinced someday, but I'm not sure. He said, basically, he said, I'm not like that. I can't do that because this was evil. This was a bad thing. And this is a bad person.
I love that he said that because I agree with him 100%. I've always said I am a bad Christian. I am a flawed Christian. I do not believe in I don't believe in forgiving my enemies, and I know you're supposed to. And they say, well, forgiveness is not for the enemy, it's for you. No, vengeance is for me. Vengeance is great. And I don't forgive unless there is true repentance.
Let me,
Unless I see my enemy get down on his knees and say, I am sorry, but I don't forgive anyone that persists in their violent message. And so, yeah, I'm a really kind of crappy Catholic,
do
but I'm
you
very happy with my version of Catholicism.
do you think that you could not forgive your enemy but still not hate him?
No, no. Dan, I'm Italian and partly Irish. Come on. No, I'm seriously, no, I know myself. I know myself. I hate. I hate. And I mean, I don't hate everyone. I dislike certain
Yeah.
people. I love, but as much as I hate, that is how passionate I am about the people that I love. And I am loyal to a fault. And you do something to someone that I love, including you, watch out. You've just made the worst enemy of your life.
Well, I
No,
got to
so
stay on your good side. I got. She's fierce, folks. I'll tell you, she's fierce. I got to stay on her good side.
well, I would never hate you, but there are people, and I'm mentally picturing them right now. I
Yeah.
hate them. I hate them. They're very lucky that I'm not in a position of authority. They're very lucky that I haven't run for office, which I would never win anyway. They're
Remember
very lucky that I'm not in a prosecutor's office.
what Nixon told his staff on his last day in office, and he was forced to leave office, and he gave that very spontaneous, many consider it one of the greatest speeches ever delivered, very spontaneous remarks in the White House. And many of the people there on the staff, young people, they were crying and all. He said, remember this, people will hate you. People will hate you, but you basically, he said, but do not answer that with hate. Do not hate them in return, because when you do that, they win. Basically, that's what he said. It was a famous statement.
I
Um,
I know, and that's a philosophy that I hear a great deal, and I admire people who are like that. But I don't think, I'm sorry, I don't believe that hating your enemies is losing anything. I don't think that you are obligated in any way, shape, or form to
mhm.
love your enemy. And again, I'm a bad Christian. I am a really bad Christian, but I am a Christian. I will not draw first blood. Let's put it this way. I won't deliberately go and hurt someone. But if
Right.
someone hurts me or someone hurts my family, I'm kind of like a Charles Bronson Catholic, you know?
Yeah. Okay. And now a lot of people are saying, Christine, that Marco Rubio, in his remarks, I saw someone commented that they had never heard anyone perfectly encapsulate the essence of, I was going to say Christianity, but really, I guess the essence of Christianity slash Catholicism, like Rubio did when he spoke about the meaning of Christ, and the sacrifice of Jesus, which was part of his remark. It was very passionate remarks by Marco at the memorial service.
He's one of my heroes. I've loved Marco Rubio for 20 years, ever since he came on the scene as a very young Cub senator. And I have a really good friend, Lorianne, on Facebook, and she's a friend, a good friend, and she lives in Florida. And I always say, I'm so jealous of you. You get DeSantis, you get Rubio, you get all these great, and then we're stuck with what we got. We got Shapiro. Jesus Lord. Anyway, but um, Rubio, I think, and I'm not so entirely sure about this, but if you remember when President Obama was then Senator Obama, and he gave, I believe it was the keynote speech at the Democratic National Convention. Was it in 2000, or it was several years before he ran for the presidency? And he gave an amazing, eloquent speech. And people said, he's gonna run for president. I think of Marco in much the same way that I do Obama, not because of policy, but because of charisma, because of the ability to perfectly represent a party, a people, a movement, and a philosophy. And Marco, I think, is a much better standard bearer for conservatives and for the Republican Party than JD Vance. And I like JD a lot, but I think that JD is too closely tied to Donald Trump and to MAGA. And I think that a larger tent for Republicans would be one that could be headed by someone like Marco Rubio, who has one foot in MAGA world because, I mean, he's in the administration, but another foot in a world of conservatives who didn't vote for Trump and who are social conservatives and who hate what the Democrats stand for and their extremes, but who are not MAGA. And I think that Marco could truly be the next president. And I adore him. And I especially adore what he just
JD
did.
Vance. What happens to JD Vance? What are you going to serve? Does he serve
I
another
just,
as
I
vice
don't,
president or what?
I don't know, but I just don't see him as the standard bearer for the Republican Party. I really don't. That's me. A lot of people
You
disagree.
don't think he's seasoned enough?
No, I don't. I think Rubio has put in, I think it's Rubio has put in the work. Um,
Well,
and
this.
he wasn't jumped ahead of other people because he wrote a book or because Donald Trump's sons really liked him, or because this and that. I like JD Vance a lot, but I don't think he deserves to be president. Not yet. I
Well,
think Marco Rubio does.
he's got to show us more in the next 3 years, and we don't know what's going to happen. There we go back to events. Okay, we don't know what kind of situations he's going to be thrown into in the next 3 years. We look, he's a heartbeat away from the presidency. Okay, and by the way, Marco Rubio is on the ladder too. The Secretary of State, I think, comes. Let's see. I think it goes Vice President, Speaker of the
Speaker of the
House,
House.
and
Speaker of
then
the
the
House.
Secretary of State. I think. I
I
think
don't. I don't know. You're probably right. Yeah. I mean, I know the three. I know,
Secretary of
president, vice
State is
president.
he is in line
Yeah.
there. God forbid if something happens to those other people. Well, anyway, we don't know. But Marco, there was an old saying about the Republican Party that Republicans, when it comes to the presidency, Republicans don't nominate, they coronate. Okay,
Hmm.
which means that um, they reward the person who has put in the time and put in the
Yes.
effort and
Yes.
has been in the wings waiting, worked hard and is waiting. And of course that certainly applied to Reagan, it applied to Bush. Okay, it applied to Nixon. I mean, he had served as vice president 2 terms under Eisenhower. Okay, it did not apply to Eisenhower. It applied to both Bushes. It did not apply to Eisenhower, and it did not apply to Trump.
Right. It didn't
They
apply to Eisenhower because of
loyal
World War II.
Republicans. Yeah, they had already been famous and had a following and were plucked by the Republican Party to be the nominee. But in all the other cases that I mentioned, certainly applied in the case of Dole. Okay, he had put in the time. He was a loyal soldier, even though he didn't win. It applied in the case of Reagan. Excuse me, Romney. Romney. Okay,
Yeah.
he didn't win, but it certainly applied in his case. Uh, I don't know if the case of, I mean, J.D. Vance, yes, vice president, but he will only have been vice president for 4 years. All right. So, but whereas
Yeah, and I mean, you've got Marco,
Rubio's resume is like this.
and the thing about, I'm not down on JD. I love him. I think he's a fabulous human being. I love he's converted to Catholicism. I think he's wonderful. But I think in terms of what the person is made of and what they've accomplished, Marco Rubio right now is Secretary of State. He was the National Security Director because of the I forget the name of the guy who was fired or moved around. I mean, at one point he had three portfolios that he was doing at the same time, and he's been a senator for many years. He was a congressman from Florida. He is the child, the prototype of the Cuban refugee, the anti-communist, the firstborn. He was born in the United States, but his parents were refugees. They came,
Right,
they fled Castro. I just
right.
think he is perfect. I voted for him
Yeah,
every
but
single time I possibly could,
both
as president.
both
I
guys
vote
have great backstories. Both guys embody the American dream. Okay, both guys arguably came from nothing. Both Vance and Rubio. Okay, I mean Vance has an amazing life journey, life is backstory. Okay, it's pretty hard to compete with that. His story, which was, of course, turned into a huge bestseller and then a movie. But look, Trump himself has mentioned both of them as the likely frontrunners. And a lot of people say, well, gee, I wish the two of them could just get together and run together. Okay.
that's
But
that's an alternative as well.
the
problem
question
would be that
who's going to be
you won't have JD running as vice president. He's going to have to be at the top of the ticket because he's already vice president. And I think Marco should be at the top of the ticket because of his age, because of his experience. But you know what? We're talking about this. What you're right. What's going to happen in 3 years? We have no idea. I will say, bravo to our Secretary of State, who, and this is an immigration lawyer talking here, who denied a visa to Mahmoud Abbas, head of the Palestinian Authority, preventing him from coming and being a hero at the UN session this week. God bless you, Marco. I love you for doing that. And he really, really, that something is consequential. That basically is saying we're not letting terrorists and mouthpieces for terrorists into our country.
Oh, he's done a lot of very courageous things already as Secretary of State. He's getting very, very high marks so far. So
Yeah,
we'll have
I
to keep
agree.
an eye on this. But Christine, we're coming up on 9 o'clock. It's
Oh my
8:50.
gosh, how'd that happen?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Uh-huh.
And um, we have to say a little bit about the New Jersey gubernatorial election. I don't know if you have any take on Mikey Sherrill. Mikey, even though her name, I don't know why she calls herself Mikey. Her name is Rebecca Michelle. Uh, she's from Virginia. She's not from New Jersey. What's the
That's
story?
another thing. What is it with the Democrats in these carpetbaggers? I mean, Murphy's from Boston, right? Murphy's from Massachusetts, isn't he?
Right? And Corzine was from Missouri, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, come on. At least Josh Shapiro was born in Abington. He's from
Right.
the Philadelphia area. So, I mean, at least we got that. And most of our governors, in fact, all of our governors that I can think, except for Ed Rendell was born
He was
in
from
New
New York
York.
City.
He was
New
in New
York
York.
City.
Right, but I mean, he spent so
Went to
many
school
years. I
at
mean, he became an
Penn.
honorary Philadelphian, Pennsylvania.
Went to school at Penn and stayed in Philly.
But I mean, I mean, Chitterelli is a New Jersey guy. I mean, he opens up his mouth, and he's from New Jersey.
Right.
And
Right.
listen, Mikey Sherrill she's had an honorable service as a in the Air Force, I think it was. I mean, she was a fighter pilot.
It was maybe the Navy, Air, whatever. I don't know.
I mean, that's incredibly
Naval
honorable. Anybody who serves,
Academy.
anyone who serves is better than any guy or woman who just waltzes in and decides they're going to become a politician.
Okay.
However, I honor that. But does she have the chops to govern a state as diverse and as important as New Jersey? No.
From the debate, it didn't look like it. She came across as New Jersey version of Kamala, unfortunately.
Oh, God forbid. Oh, my God. And Kamala's back in the news with that book, and all I can hear is that, that laugh. Oh, it's nightmarish. It's nightmarish.
She's back in the news and she's got her book out, and they say that Joe is writing a book. I mean, we know that Joe's not writing it, okay? But he's going to come out with a book and let them, you know what? This is wonderful to watch. It's wonderful to watch because Kamala says, Shapiro had too many questions. He didn't really seem like he wanted the job. He threw up all kinds of barriers. Biden did not share with her, did not empower her. Okay. The governor of California, Newsom, didn't return her phone calls. The same thing with the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. She didn't return the phone call after Kamala lost the election. I mean, she's got all kinds of gripes, Kamala, and they're all picking at one another now.
And she's making poor Tim Waltz look like he was way, way down in the barrel. And Newsom's not talking to me. Shapiro has too many questions. Gretchen's this, but I guess I'm stuck with the guy from Minneapolis. I mean, it's really kind of, plus
I
she's,
gotta tell
yeah.
you that the day she picked Walls, and I was getting the scuttlebutt that she was going to pick Walls, and then when it was finally announced, I actually jumped for joy. I
Me
was
too.
jumping up and down screaming. I said, this is exactly what I hoped for. It's the worst possible decision she could have made.
It
And
was like when Hillary picked Tim Kaine. It was the exact same dynamic, Just like, really? You don't want to win, do you? You know?
it was a terrible, terrible choice. The fact that the Democrats thought that Walsh was a man's man is was a he man, was a man's man, was shows how messed up they are, how they can't understand guys. They have no understanding of guys whatsoever. Okay.
Uh, I know. I
And
mean
so
that
they
that that
this
picture of him tiptoeing.
would appeal to quote unquote real men. And he did exactly the opposite.
I don't understand where they're getting their demographics from. I mean, there are a lot of different ways of being a real man. You can be. I mean, a lot of the priests I know are realer men than some of the creatures that I see being presented on in the Democratic Party. Adam Kinzinger is was in the army, was in combat, and he sure as heck is not a real man. He's become a whiny, wussy, Trump hating scold. Um, who are the other ones? I mean, there's just so many people. Joe Walsh, the old, the former Republican congressman. All of these guys who turned against the Republican Party because they hated Trump. They are just spineless wonders, and I wonder why people think that they're representative of any kind of demographic.
But I just think that the Democrats, they just can't seem to. The only platform they have is I hate Trump. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and that's not going to work. It
they,
didn't work.
it's like Jimmy Kimmel. They can't seem to get beyond it. Trump, you know, my dear sister, God rest her soul, used to have a, a saying. She used to tell me, and she used to tell anybody that wanted to listen. She used to say, "Don't let them push your buttons. Don't let them push your buttons." Trump pushes all their buttons, and they fall for it every time.
I know. I
It's
love watching
it
CNN.
doesn't laugh.
I love watching CNN because I know what Trump has said without having heard Trump say it because
Right.
they're all talking about it and they're all like, oh, this is horrible. And oh, we're telling women who are pregnant that they can't take Tylenol and let them take Tylenol if they want to, these poor women. And oh my God. And it's like, just, it's true. It's like Pavlov's dog. Trump says something and they jump or they salivate.
No, I mean, and um, they said, well, what are women supposed to do? Because they had said for years, apparently, that Tylenol was safe. Now, I have taken Tylenol. Okay.
I take it
I'm
all the
very,
time.
very careful when I've taken it. I know that there are a lot of warnings around Tylenol and have been for a long, long, long time. For a long time. Um, but they is Trump, and he said, again, speaking very candidly, said, he said, what are women supposed to do? Like, I mean, God forbid if they couldn't take Tylenol, like, what is this, the end of the world? But anyway, he said, well, I guess maybe they're just going to have to tough it out. And people went nuts when he said that.
And
They went
Tylenol is
crazy.
not the only painkiller. I'm not a doctor, but there's Advil, there's Motrin, there's St. Joseph's Children's aspirin. I mean, why is it all of a sudden Tylenol? But I mean, I have no problem with Tylenol. I don't understand what the fear of Tylenol is. Really, I take it. I don't take it all the time, but it's my go-to painkiller. I guess Advil probably a little bit more than Tylenol, but I've never. I remember I did see a documentary about the Tylenol murders. Remember that?
Oh
30 years
yes,
ago,
they
30, 40
took it
years
off the
ago.
shelves.
Yeah, that was
Right,
horrible.
that's a classic public relations case study there about how to handle a crisis. Okay,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's a case study and Tylenol. At that time, which was owned by McNeil Labs, I believe it's no longer owned by them.
Mm.
Um, or maybe McNeil Labs was sold to somebody else, and that's why it has a new name. Who the hell knows with all these mergers and acquisitions and all?
Yeah.
But
Do you
that is
think they did a good job to manage the public
oh, yes,
relations
because
debacle?
immediately they took they removed Tylenol from all the shelves of all the drugstores everywhere. And Tylenol told them, send it back to us, take it off the shelves. And we will not put Tylenol back on the shelves until we know what's going on and we find out and we feel it's okay to put it back on the shelves.
That's
Yeah, I
amazing.
remember
Did
that.
they ever find out? Did they ever actually find out who
I don't
was the person that was doing? Really? No.
You better
Wow.
do a search on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
But
the.
there's a documentary. It's either on Netflix or HBO Max or Hulu or one of those, and it's all about that. And I remember that was about 40 years ago, and I think I was a junior in college, and I wasn't in the country when it started, and it pretty much blew over by the time I was home. But that, looking at it again in that documentary, people were paralyzed. I mean, these just
And
poor people going.
1982,
That's
uh,
it.
Tylenol murders remain officially unsolved, with the
Wow.
perpetrator was never identified. While James Lewis was the prime suspect and was convicted of extortion for demanding $1 million from Johnson and Johnson. Oh, they must have owned Tylenol at the time, Johnson and Johnson, to stop the killings. He was never charged with the murders themselves and maintained his innocence until his death. Investigators concluded Lewis was an extortionist, not the murderer, and despite other suspects being considered and investigations continuing for decades, no one has ever definitively been linked to the poisonings. Isn't that
Oh,
amazing?
that is amazing, and that is just devastating.
Devastating.
These poor innocent people. And you go to a drugstore to pick up, and I think wasn't that what triggered the plastic wrapping
Oh,
and the
yes.
unopenable
So
whatever,
now
the
you have
safety
a
caps.
foil seal and you have a plastic outside
Yeah.
and you go to open it. Yes,
Right.
it's
I think
so
that's what caused that, or that triggered that requirement. Because before that, I remember as a kid, aspirin coming in glass bottles, and all you had to do was, untwist the bottle. There was a
yes,
cotton ball, pull
that
out the
was
cotton
all.
ball, and that's it.
That was it.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, Christine, it's been a wonderful evening. It's been a lot of fun. And
I
we will do
loved it.
it again before the election. We'll do it again before the election, definitely, maybe a couple times before the election.
We got to do this, Dan. We have such chemistry.
I, I'm ready. I'm
I
ready.
think so. Just let me know. We'll do
Yeah,
it.
let me
I
tell
mean,
everybody this is going to, it'll be up on my YouTube page. It'll be the top of my, these will be there permanently on my YouTube page. It'll be for weeks and weeks and weeks at the top of my Facebook page. It'll be for weeks and weeks and weeks at the top of my LinkedIn. I will also post it on X, formerly Twitter, and it will be on my website at dancerucci.com. So there's many ways you could watch it, everybody. If you missed it tonight, you can still watch it.
and I'm posting it too.
Oh, good.
Me
And
too.
yes,
Posting it too.
yes. And post it, make sure the audience is, public, everybody. I'm going to um, do something to the post on my, whatever you do on my Facebook page so you can share it.
Thank you.
Share it.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yes.
All
As
right.
soon as you do that, I'm going to share it. All
Okay.
right, sweetie. I love you. And this was
Bye.
great. And we will do this again shortly. And I'll talk to
Yes.
you later on.
We will be back, folks. Thank you, Christine.
Mwah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.